This painting is called Electricity Pyre, and it took me 4 months to make using gouache on a wood panel. It's a scene in a high desert where people live with minimal infrastructure, but they figured out how to make electricity that emits as a signal without wires. They harvest it out of rocks by stacking them in piles directly above this cave. This druid scientist person has a device that causes a spark to jump between the two spikes and sends a stream of electricity up through the ground, and they capture it with these stacks of rocks directly above, making it broadcast out into the air for anyone to use. I had just moved into my apartment in October 2023, and there was this blank wall that I wanted to make a painting for. Because of the dark wood doors and my dark wood furniture, there were already a lot of heavy dark browns and dark reds in the room, so I thought a cool pastel pink or lavender would look good here to have in the painting. So that's how I decided on the general size and color palette of the painting. I also thought it should have a large curved shape in it somewhere to balance out all of the rectangular shapes in the room. Sometimes my art is molded to fit my interior design needs, which I think is a great way to narrow down what you want to do, because you gotta start from somewhere. I'm interested in creating a kind of back-to-the-land science fiction utopia in my work. I like to depict electricity as an ethereal substance, like an animating force coming from deep within the earth, rather than something that's at odds with the natural world. I have a few other paintings about electricity too. It's a subject I love. I especially love to pretend that electricity can be harvested from rocks. I think pseudoscience can be fun when it's used for fantasy. Here are a couple of inspirations I had from my cave. I love the way Henry Darger paints caves, and I also love this infographic that I saw at the beach about tide pools. I like how it's like a cross-section of a landscape. So I created this mock-up here. Here's the curved shape I was going for. I'm not one to make a bunch of sketches because honestly drawing is really frustrating to me. I mostly write down what I'm going to paint in my diary, and then I collect a lot of reference images. My process for drawing a landscape involves tracing a bunch of references and then arranging them on the wood panel where I want them to go, and then kind of grafting them together. I used to feel guilty about tracing, but I don't anymore. I just think of it as collaging more than anything. Henry Darger, who painted that cave, traced a lot of things in his work. Like you can sometimes spot the copper-toned sunscreen girl in his paintings. Here's how I use tracing paper to transfer images onto the wood panel. First I find an image, and then I trace it onto the tracing paper. Very fancy. Then I take my pencil and cover the other side in graphite completely. Then I put the image where I want it to go and trace over it again using a ballpoint pen, and then the image is transferred. I like to have pretty much all the lines down on the wood panel before I start painting. It makes it more like a relaxing coloring book experience when the image is pre-planned out like that. Here's some of the color going on. I had a hard time figuring out how to do the shadows on this one. I think I learned here that using a saturated color for the darker shades looks wrong to me, and that I like it better if it's more desaturated. Here's an old painting I did in 2017 where the red on the rocks felt wrong to me at the time, but I never really realized it was because of the saturation. And then sometimes I don't do this, but sometimes I will use Photoshop to test out different color options. Here's some of the different things I tried out for the border. I ended up using a cream color because I like the way it melted into the color of the wall in my apartment. And then towards the end of the painting, I thought the sky looked a little too blank still, and I wanted to show the electricity broadcasting outward, so I added this to the sky, and I think it's cute. I also thought it needed more animals, so I added the birds too. And here's the final piece again. Some of the things I think are successful are the details in the rocks and the color palette. And then I feel like the people's outfits could be cooler though. I like fashion, but I can never paint cool outfits. I really like the way the artist Julie Mayer draws outfits though, because they're interesting but not overly detailed. And then this artist too. I think his name is Nagasi, but I really like the way he draws clothes. But yeah, let me know if you know of artists who draw cool clothes because I think I do need some more inspiration in that department. That being said, this is my current favorite painting that I've made. It means a lot to me, and I hope you liked learning about it. Okay, bye.